Honourable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favour upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labours of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. Amen. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the land for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, correction of votes and proceedings and official report. Votes and proceedings, Thursday, 8 April 2018, page 1. Page 2. Page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12. Honourable members, in the absence of any corrections, votes and proceedings of Thursday, 8 April, are hereby adopted as true record of proceedings. Official report. Tuesday, 12 December 2017. Any corrections? Honourable members, in the absence of any corrections, the official report of Tuesday, 12 December 2017 is hereby adopted as true record of proceedings. Official report, Wednesday, 13 December 2017. Any corrections? Honourable members, in the absence of any corrections, the official report herein is hereby adopted as true record of proceedings. Item 3, business statement for the 4th week. Chairman of Business Committee.
Right Honourable Speaker, I wish to ask leave of you to present the business statement for the ensuing week on behalf of the Chairman of the Business Committee, the Majority Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Business Committee for the second session of the 7th Parliament and for the 4th week ending Friday, 16th February 2018. Mr. Speaker, the House met yesterday, 8th February, and arranged business of the House for the 4th week ending February 2018. And respectfully, Mr. Speaker, I submit the report as follows. The Speaker, we've made provision for formal communication by your good self, and that may be read. Questions may be asked. Right Honourable Speaker, we programmed the Honourable Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection to respond to 4 questions relating to public affairs with which the Minister has officially connected or communicated to us. The Speaker, we've made provision for urgent questions which may be asked during the week. In accordance with Order 72, ministers may be permitted to also make statements. And Mr. Speaker, we've made provision for your good self to allow for such statements. The Speaker, bills and papers, reports may be presented to the House for first reading, and those of urgent nature may be taken through the various stages in accordance with Order 119. And papers of committees' reports may also be presented to the House. Referrals of bills may be made to committees, and the Business Committee expects such committees to work on those referrals and submit their reports to the House for consideration. Mr. Speaker, motions may be debated and their consequential resolutions, if any, may be taken during the week. Mr. Speaker, we've programmed the debate on the message of the State of the Nations to be moved on Tuesday, 13th of February 2017. Honourable members are therefore urged to participate actively in the debate after the motion is being moved. Having regard to the need for a thorough debate on the message of the State of the Nation, the Business Committee has decided on time allocations for honourable members, and their leadership will communicate same to them. But for the avoidance of that, Mr. Speaker, the following allotments have been made to contributions on the message of the State of the Nation. The mover of the motion will be allocated 25 minutes. Leadership and ministers will be allocated 15 minutes. Chairpersons, ranking, and deputy ministers will be allocated a time period of 12 minutes. Other honourable members, 8 minutes. And for winding up for the leadership will be given 30 minutes. Mr. Speaker, the time allotment is to ensure that many of honourable members herein present would be availed the opportunity to contribute immensely towards the debate of the message as presented by His Excellency the President. The Speaker, committee would, however, urge members to endeavour to stay within the time frame that is being allocated to them in order to avoid repetitions. The committee proposes that the House embark on the debates by structuring each day's debate to focus on particular sectors of the economy, or the state, so that there would be orderliness in our debates or systematic presentations. The Speaker, the debate on the State of the Nations is proposed to be concluded on the 21st of February 2018. The Speaker, on Tuesday, February, questions may be asked, statements may be made, presentations of papers may be made, and motions may be moved. And committee sittings are also scheduled. On Wednesday, 14th of February, questions may be asked, statements may be made, presentations of papers may be made, and motions will be moved, and committees may sit. The same applies to Thursday, 15th of February. We have a question that is being filed by the Honorable Richard Kwashiga to the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, and that question may be asked. Again, on Thursday, we have a question standing in the name of Ms. Hajia Ladi Ayamba, Member of Parliament for Pusiga, to ask the Minister for Gender and Social Protection a question, and that would be for Thursday, 15th of February. Another question in the name of the same Member of Parliament for the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. And another question for the same Minister, standing in the name of Alhaji Mumuni Al-Hassan, Honorable Member for Salaga North. The Speaker, statements may be made, papers may be presented, motions may be moved, and committees may sit. Finally, on Friday, the 16th of February, questions may be asked, statements may be made, presentations of papers may be laid, and motions may be moved, committees may sit. Mr. Speaker, I hereby submit to the Honourable House the business statement in accordance with Order 162. I so submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Majority Leader. Any contributions regarding the business statement? In the absence of any comments, the business statement as, yes, Honourable.
Very grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, first of all, I wish to thank the Majority Leader for the business statement, and in commenting on it, I wish to draw attention to an issue I raised 2 weeks ago in respect of grenades being in possession of civilians who were subsequently arrested. The suggestion then was that if the Minister for Defense could come and allay the fears of our constituents, especially being the representatives of the people, it would be useful to have an idea or to be briefed on exactly what the situation is and whether or not we are safe, you know. But it's been 2 weeks and nothing has happened to it. Also, Mr. Speaker, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament would be away from next week till about the 25th of this month. Now, it's been inconclusive as far as taking a decision on the unavailability of members of committee in Parliament is. And I'm wondering whether we would be marked absent or we should fill a form. Okay. I think the Majority Leader has given an indication as to what would happen. So I'll leave that one for now. But we will be away for 2 weeks, and we don't want a situation where constituents will think we are absenting ourselves from the chamber when we are indeed doing parliamentary work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leadership, any comment? Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my concern has to do with the debate on the message of the State of the Nation's address. Mr. Speaker, having gone through the time allotments for members, I think time allotted to other members is woefully inadequate. 8 minutes to make an informed contribution is something that I want to appeal to leadership to effect some changes by making it to 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Honorable Majority Leadership. Majority Leader or Deputy.
Speaker, let me thank my very able deputy for standing in the Speaker for covering my back. I had to be in another business that lasted for about 1 hour, 20 minutes, and that indeed delayed my coming on time. Speaker, the issue about grenades in the hands of civilians, I recollect that my colleague raised the matter. I intended really to discuss it with the two ministers of Defense and Interior, and then we'll take it from there. Whether or not they will come and brief us in a joint caucus meeting, or whether or not it will merit a statement being read by any one of them. That's where we are. I'll conclude it, and then we'll see what to do with it, because it should be a matter of national concern. Speaker, the public accounts meeting outside Accra, I understand they are going to pursue some committee assignment in the 3 northern regions. They submitted an application to us, Mr. Speaker, and I asked that they take a cue from what the Committee on Local Government and Rural Development has done. They were to go to the district assemblies in the regions. They split themselves up into 3 groups, and today they've been able to cover every region. But the committee, the Public Accounts Committee, will want to go as one unit to every region. Speaker, not to be the amount involved be too colossal for us to bear. I'm advising them to split the committee up into subcommittees to do this job. Now they are advising us that, well, it's too late in the day for them to do the first one. So they want to do the first one as one unit. Look at the allocation to the committee. And if just one such visit is going to consume everything, the year is yet to run out. And you will not then come out to say that you are in peril, you cannot work because you have consumed everything in just one of such activities. So please look at it as a committee, and we would advise that you split up into subcommittees to do that. But having said so, the Speaker, the member is asking what to be done. I am of the opinion that when the orders provide in Order 7, that sitting includes the period during which Parliament is sitting continuously without adjournment, and a period during which it is in committee, that it there refers to Parliament. That is the entirety of Parliament sitting in committee. It doesn't really refer to the committees of Parliament. So if you go to perform an assignment elsewhere, it will not be construed as a sitting of Parliament, which is why you should provide evidence to us And Mr. Speaker then would allow you, because the parliamentary business you are going to conduct, the Speaker then will allow you to go there. The application cannot be granted en masse to the committee members, because you would attest to the fact that not every member attends those committee meetings, and to be wrong to use that blanket cover for all committee members. So those of them undertaking that enterprise, submit your names, and I believe, Mr. Speaker, when he receives the list, will grant you leave of absence. The Speaker, a colleague is asking whether the 8 minutes allocation of time to members to contribute to the debate on the message on the state of the nation is not inadequate. Mr. Speaker, if we allow the debate to flow without any interruptions, as Mr. Speaker you have been promoting, I believe it should be adequate, and it would also avoid repetition. The debate gets repetitive over and above maybe the first 2 days. Beyond the first 2 days, it gets a little bit repetitive, which is why we often insist that members submit themselves to particular sectors. Once you're able to do that, Mr. Speaker, I believe we avoid repetition, and the 8 minutes perhaps will be more than adequate. In any event, Mr. Speaker, given his own disposition as a Reverend Minister, has often exercised and indeed displayed a lot of magnanimity when it comes to the application of time. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, I'm afraid.
Mr. Speaker,
it's a very long time to be on your feet.
Yes.
The chief, both customarily and in the House, has already concluded and had a good bath with all the other water available. But because of your stature, and in fact, a former Deputy Speaker of the House, you will make a few remarks of relevant guidance.
Peter, thank you very much. In fact, what the leader said about your magnanimity, having regard to your pastoral tendencies, has just revealed itself. You have allowed me, in spite of the very strict situation or strange situation I find myself, to make a few comments. I appreciate the fact that after the leader has spoken, you should not speak, because parliamentary discipline doesn't allow that. But the leader said something that I just want to draw his mind to, so that perhaps he will take it on board next time he's considering certain things. That just now, in interpretation, the literalist approach, the strict literalist approach, has been confined to history. It has been confined to antiquity. And these days, we rather look at the purposive approach. What is the purpose? And so, perhaps the discussion that when they say it, Parliament and its committee, refers to Parliament sitting in committee as Parliament and cannot include committees of Parliament. Perhaps when we are looking at our standing orders, we can look at that. Because what is, it's all parliamentary business. And I've noticed that even if you are in Parliament, you are in a committee just on the business of Parliament, and it happened to me this year, you'll be recorded as being in the committee, but you will not be recorded, you'll be recorded as being absent in Parliament. The Speaker, the question about blanket approval, we all know that when you go to committee, it is recorded who is there, who is not there. So perhaps when we are looking at our standing orders, we will include Parliament or the committees of Parliament, if you are so recorded. And Mr. Speaker, with these truly few words, once again, I thank you for your magnanimity. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Members. The business statement as presented is hereby adopted. And I trust that we shall all sharpen our punctuality, which alone will add time to every opportunity to fully contribute. I trust that honorable members will take serious note of this accordingly. Thank you very, very much. Honorable members, item listed for questions. Honorable Minister for Roads, if you will kindly take the relevant seat. The first question stands in the name of the Honorable Member for Upper West Akim.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when the construction of the Adelsu Town roads will be completed. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to start with the background to the question. Adelsu is the district capital of the Upper West Akim district of the Eastern region. The Adelsu town roads form part of the contract for the partial reconstruction of Adelsu Road, which is 15.2 kilometers. Adelsu town roads, which is 5.1 kilometers, and access road to Cocoa Board Warehouse at Nsanwen, which is 0.74 kilometers away. The total length of the project is 21.0 kilometers. The project is being funded by the Ghana Cocoa Board. Mr. Speaker, currently the project commenced on 8th April 2016 and is scheduled for completion on 17th April 2018. The progress of work is projected at 70% physical completion. The time elapsed is 83%. The Adelsu Road has been constructed up to primary seal, and the work done on Adelsu town roads is up to the base course. The project was suspended in June 2017 as part of the directives by Cocoa Board to allow for general overview and rationalization. Into the future, Mr. Speaker, the outcome of the field rationalization will determine whether or not the project will be continued with the original intended works or rescope. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, follow up, if any.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with Upper West Achimbili, a newly created district in 2012, and Adelsu as its capital, and also with government policy of upgrading facilities in district capitals, is the minister considering making a special case for Adelsu to allow the intended works be completed even after the field rationalization?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, it's exactly so. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, Member, are you done?
I'm done, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Question listed star 280. Honorable Member for Sige.
It's not me, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Road and Highways when work on the following roads will be completed. Nakon Kope to Colorado, to Anyamam to Wokumagbe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I take first the Nakunkope to Colorado portion of the road. Mr. Speaker, the background to that road is that the Nakunkope to Colorado road is captured in the Department of Federal Roads database as Colorado Portson Nakonkupe Feeder Road. It is a 9.5 kilometer long feeder road in the Adan West district of the Greater Accra region. The section between kilometer 0 and kilometer 3 is bituminous surfaces in good condition, while the remaining 6.5 kilometers, that is between kilometer 3 to kilometer 9.5 section of the road is earth surface in poor condition. Mr. Speaker, currently a contract for the upgrading of the remaining 6.5 kilometers road to bitumen surfacing was awarded on 3rd October 2016 for completion by 23rd October 2017. The completion date has since elapsed. The contractor has, however, abandoned site since December 2016 due to the employer's undue delay in paying for work done. Warning letters have been issued to the contractor to resume work, but the contractor is yet to resume work. Work done to date is still projected at 10%. The future program for this road is that the Department of Federal Roads, DFR, has initiated the process for termination of the contract. Now I come to Enyaman to Wukumagwe Road. And its background is that the Enyaman Wukumagwe Road is a 9.5 kilometer feeder road located in the Adan West district of the Greater Accra region. It is a partially engineered road in poor condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is no major rehabilitation program on the road. The ministry will be carrying out normal routine maintenance activities to keep the road in use. Moving into the future, Mr. Speaker, engineering design studies will be carried out on the road in the third quarter of 2018, that is this year, for consideration in the 2019 budget. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Is there any follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I may like to know who the contractor for this very first road is, and also whether there is any immediate interventions, since the road is a very important economic road for salt commodities outside. We export to the other places of the country. So I may like to know this.
Honourable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would want to provide my honourable member colleague the information he is asking for. The contractor is Mrs. FNB INV Limited. Work commenced on 24/10/2016. Expected date of completion is 23rd/10, that is October 2017. The contract sum is 8,086,271.12. That is 8,086,271 Ghana cedis, 12 pesos. There is an IPC which was produced by the contractor for the consideration of the employer, and the value was 35327.70. And IPC represent interim payment certificates. And the source of funding is the road fund. I think as concerning the program for both stretches of the road, the information was contained in my answer, as I've already. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Any further?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I was asking for any special intervention, but then he has told me of what we have for the meantime. But I want to also know, since they are considering terminating the contract, may I know how long that's going to take? Because we have seen that the work is long overdue to be completed. If any indication of how soon the contract will be terminated.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, going through termination is a process, and it has to be followed rigidly. We have to give the first warning letter and wait for a period to get a response. Then necessarily there must be a follow-up second letter. So the process will be followed closely. I cannot give the exact date, but I can assure the honorable member in this honorable house that we shall keep to the process dates as closely as possible. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Question *281. Honorable Member for German South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways the current state of the road fund in financing the maintenance of the nation's roads.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as usual, I want to begin with the background to the question. Mr. Speaker, the road fund was established in 1985 under an administrative order and restructured by the Road Fund Act 536 of 1997 to provide secure source of funding for routine and periodic maintenance for the preservation of the nation's road network and upgrading and rehabilitation of public roads. That's trunk, feeder, and urban roads. The priority charge on the fund is routine and periodic maintenance. Mr. Speaker, the sources of revenue into the fund are derived from A, levy on fuel, that is both diesel and petrol. B, road, bridge, and ferry tolls. C, vehicle lances and inspection fees. D, international transit fees. And E, monies raised from banks and other financial institutions in consultation with the Ministry of Finance. The annual accruals to the fund since 2000 to 2017 are as shown below. And Mr. Speaker, the table is clear and speaks for itself. They are in Ghana cedis. 2000, in the year 2000, it was 24.88. In the year 2002, 40.99. 2004, 76.54. 2006, 108.72. 2008, 117.11. 2010, 191.42. 2012, 241.31. 2014, 311. 2015, 323.98. 2016, 1,153.64, and 2017, 1,010, all in millions Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, since its establishment, the contribution of the fuel levy has been dominant, about 91% of the total amount realized in 2016. The sharp increase in revenue accrued to the fund in 2016 was as a result of the increase in fuel levy from 7.3 Ghana pesos per litre to 40 pesos, Ghana pesos per litre. The increase projected the accruals to the fund to about 1.2 billion annually. The amount could have been enough to pay for the fund's indebtedness from 2015 to 2016 fiscal years, which was in the sum of 336.14 million Ghana cedis, and cost of work to be done in 2016 if the volume of work awarded had been in line with that of 2015. Mr. Speaker, the fund was, however, mismanaged by one, or A, awarding very many road projects under enhanced road fund during the last half of 2016, whose total contract sum was about 5 times the projected annual accruals to the fund. The total revealed commitment to the fund as at the end of 2016, December 2016, was 5,250,731,010 cedis and 96 pesos. Therefore, the fund could have taken 5 years to pay for those projects only without awarding new projects and paying for routine and periodic maintenance works such as pothole patching, grading gravel surfaces, grass cutting, desilting of drains, resealing, partial reconstruction, among others, which are priority charge on the fund. B, the government, that is referring to Ministries of Finance and Roads and Highways, on 30 June 2016, collateralized the road fund for a loan of 1.2 billion from the United Bank of Africa, UBA, a Nigerian bank resident in Ghana, at an interest rate of 30.82%, an amount equal to the total annual accruals to the fund. Mr. Speaker, this facility is being serviced from the accruals of the fuel levy. Bank charges and fees cost the nation 38.19 million Ghana cedis and repayment of 206.49 million Ghana cedis every quarter until August 2018. Besides the 1.2 billion Ghana cedis loan facility, Mr. Speaker, an additional loan facility of 100 million Ghana cedis was signed for payment over a 3-month period at a monthly repayment of 35 million Ghana cedis. The total quarterly accruals to the fund was approximately 240 million Ghana cedis. That is 80 million Ghana cedis per month, and therefore very little amount of about 30 million Ghana cedis is left quarterly in the fund to pay to contractors for work done. The road fund, being a statutory fund, Mr. Speaker, is also affected by the earmark funds capping and Realignment Act 947, and it further reduces the monthly accruals to about 60 million, that is 180 million per Ghana cedis per quarter. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, the quarterly payment to UBA, that is United Bank for Africa, for the servicing of the loan had been a challenge, let alone pay contractors for work done. The loan facility from UBA, therefore, severely paralyzed the funding capacity of the fund. Road contractors are therefore not paid for work done for several months, even some in years. Mr. Speaker, the fund could not finance even routine maintenance works. This is therefore the reason for numerous potholes on our roads, silted drains, bushy roadsides, and corrugated gravel surface, among others. Many projects have been abandoned and deteriorated, and interest to be paid by the employer for undue delay in honoring payment of work done by contractors are increasing monthly. The government, as a result of this, Mr. Speaker, had sought for refinancing of the UBA's loan facility, being co-led by Fidelity Bank and GCB Bank in syndication with other interested banks to offer flexible repayment terms and exercise, which is expected to end by 15 February 2018. In view of the current distressed situation of the fund, the government is seriously considering the capping regime of the fund. Both steps taken will enable about 70 million Ghana cedis into the fund monthly. This will improve the funding capacity of the fund on a monthly basis to the contractors who have unjustifiably been delayed payment for work done for several months. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, are you satisfied?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we all know before anybody considers to get a loan from the bank, the first consideration the rate, interest rate. I would like to ask the minister whether this loan was open to competition and whether other offers from other banks were entertained before settling to take the loan from UBA.
31%. Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, available clearly indicate that some other banks were consulted, but to be specific, about 6 banks were consulted. And the 6 banks were Fidelity Bank, Car Bank, Ghana Commercial Bank, Barclays Bank, Eco Bank, and United Africa Bank, UBA. So these 6 banks were consulted, and from their term sheet, almost all the terms were quite similar, except the interest rate. The lowest interest rate came from Car Bank, which was 28.5%. UBA initially quoted 31.9% and brought it to 30.8%. But UBA was, for whatever reason, selected. And the interesting aspect of UBA's interest offer was that the 30.8 interest rate was on the entire amount, the principal, whereas the others, the interest rate would have been on reducing balance basis. That's why we were paying 67 million Ghana cedis on monthly basis to service both the principal and the interest. Because the interest was on the entire amount. So by extrapolation, the payment was on pro rata basis. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further?
I think I have 2 more. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to find out from the minister that after the 1.2 billion had been disbursed, along with the 100 million, I would like to find out from the minister, after the disbursement, can he tell us, as at December 2016, the amount owed to our contractors that should have been paid from the road fund?
Honourable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at the close of 2016, the amount owed as represented by certified interim payment certificate stood at 506 million Ghana cedis. But there was a commitment charge on the road fund, which stood at over 5 billion. And this was mainly due to the many contracts that were awarded during the second half of 2016. That is between July and December, under what was called at that time as the enhanced road projects. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And the last.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we all know why the government want to refinance the existing loan, because one, the interest rate is too high, I believe, and two, we want to be able to pay our contractors and also fix and maintain our roads. That said, I would like to find out from the minister if he is sure, or if he can give us any assurance that the date given, which is 15 February 2018, if he is sure he can close the deal to be able to free the funds and pay our road contractors.
Honorable Minister, assurance.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that assurance is hereby given, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for Honorable Yeriche.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister was very elaborate, giving us the background of this arrangement. I would like to find out from the minister, what were the benefits to be derived from taking this 1.2 billion loan from UBA? What were the benefits to be derived? I mean, if you take a loan, there must be a reason for taking the loan. So what were the benefits or proposed benefits that we were to get in doing this? Did we find out from the records?
Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the benefits at that time were twofold. First and foremost, in terms of priority, was to pay for the huge outstanding road arrears. And two, was to pay for the SNIT loan as at the time. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable, the last question on the floor, then we shall go to this. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In his response to the question, the minister underscored the importance of the fuel levy to the road fund as a source of revenue. In 2016, for instance, the minister reiterated that the fuel levy alone contributed about 91% as a source of revenue to the fund. In the recent past, there has been calls for levies, especially other taxes on fuel, to be scrapped so as to reduce the prices of fuel. Given the importance of this dominant source of revenue to the fund, what would be the position of the minister on this demand for the scrapping of taxes on fuel, especially the fuel fund, the fuel levy?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it will not be wise, it will not be prudent on the part of government to scrap it. It has to be maintained. And even if possible, we should have greater consultation of increasing it in order to increase the revenue into the fund, because road construction requires huge sums of money because it's capital intensive. So, Mr. Speaker, government does not intend scrapping it. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leadership.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister in his answer indicated that one of the benefits of the loan was to pay off the SNIT loan. I'm wondering when the loan was taken and how long it had been in the books when the SNIT loan was taken.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I have provided the answer when the loan was taken and is to finish by what? Yes. Mr. Speaker, I think the answer, if my colleague will have provided it in the answer, and it's already known to this.
Majority leadership. Any?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in answering one of the questions, the minister said the purpose of taking the loan was to pay off outstanding bills and also to pay off the SNIT loan. Just want to ask the minister whether that purpose were, the intended purposes were achieved. I want to ask the minister whether the two purposes that he stated, were they achieved? The minister did say that the loan was taken to pay off outstanding loans and then to pay off the SNIT loan. Was that done exactly?
Honorable Minister, mission accomplished or not?
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, the SNIT loan was paid off, but the pending arrears of 506 million, as aforementioned, was not paid and carried on unto the ensuing year. So that was not achieved.
Honorable Ayariga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister in his answer said the fund was, to quote him, mismanaged by awarding very many road projects under enhanced road fund during the last half of 2016, whose total contract sum was about 5 times the projected annual, and I'm emphasizing annual accrual to the fund. So, Speaker, was it projected that all those contracts will be completed within the annual? was it projected that all the contracts awarded in the second half of 2016 will be concluded and paid for within that annum for it to constitute mismanagement to award the contracts second half of 2016?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. President, the answer is simple. Mr. Speaker, the answer is simple and straightforward. Mr. Speaker, I have stated the facts that the expected accruals into the fund is in the region of 1.2 billion a year. A loan of equal same amount was taken. It means that even from the very word go, the loan and the fund, and particularly the fund, have been paralyzed. There were a lot of road contract awards during the second half of 2016, amounting to over 5 billion Ghana cedis. And Mr. Speaker, if you consider all the road contracts that were awarded at the time and their time duration, that is the expected time of completion, they were within the 24-month period. Majority of them within a 12-month period. And this loan was to last for 2 years, from November 2016 to somewhere October 2018 this year. So we are talking about a period where all the road contracts that have been awarded, if had been carried out successfully from their commencement date to their completion date, would have been due for payment. And it's obvious that a lot of pressure was put on the road fund, and it was not prudent to have done that, and it amounted to a very wrong project management. And that is what is provided in the answer. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader. Honorable Ayariga, you are aware, I obliged you because the minority leadership have given that chance. So, Honorable Majority Chief, if you have one question, you may ask. Only one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister just told the House that it wasn't prudent to have done or gone into the arrangement that the government did at the time. I want to find out from the Minister whether cost-benefit analysis was done before this arrangement was secured, and whether if you compare the cost and the benefits, the country stood to gain or we lost in the process.
Honorable Minister, cost-benefit analysis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, concerning cost-benefit analysis is not what my ministry is known of. And I wouldn't say that, Mr. Speaker, this arrangement was in the interest of the nation, because it has put a lot of pressure on the fund, and it has affected the routine and the periodic maintenance of the roads as expected to be carried out. So I wouldn't say that in the long run it benefited the nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Item listed 5. Honourable Minister, thank you very much for attending to the House and answering our questions. You are discharged. Item 5, statements. We have a statement which stands in the name of the Honourable Minister and member for Abuakwa South on the occasion of the 53rd anniversary of the death of Joseph Boachi Dankwa.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Last Sunday, the 4th day of February, was the 53rd anniversary of the demise of Dr. Joseph Kwame Chichi Boachi Dankwa. Unfortunately, the House was not sitting, and I now have the space to make a commemorative statement in his honor and memory. Right Honourable Speaker, on the 4th day of February 1965, that is some 53 years ago, the man who has been aptly described by the Watson Commission of Inquiry into the 1948 Accra riot as a doyen of Gold Coast politics, the inimitable Dr. Kwame Chichi Boachi Dankwa died at the condemned section in cell number 9, measuring approximately 9 feet by 6 feet in area and fortified by an iron door with a small opening at the top in the Nsawam medium security prison. Right Honourable Speaker, the tragic circumstances surrounding the death of Dr. Dankwa is a gargantuan national irony, in that on the 6th day of March 1957, the Gold Coasters roundly repudiated colonial white rule and opted for black freedom and self-rule. President Nkrumah outdoored this new arrangement. Just 1 year into Ghana's independence, the Preventive Detention Act 1958, PDA, became one of the oppressive laws in the infant Ghana. The law, which virtually banished individual liberty, was so pernicious that on the mere say-so of President Nkrumah, a citizen of Ghana could be imprisoned without the accused being heard and without a trial by a court of competent jurisdiction. Right Honourable Speaker, the PDA, with respect, consolidated one-man rule and constitutional absolutism, which in turn paved the way for a one-party state in the infant Ghana. The truth of the matter is that the PDA was mercilessly unleashed on Dr. Dankwa twice, the last being the Preventive Detention Order 1961, Executive Instrument 171, which inexorably sent the poet, the statesman, the philosopher king, the pan-Africanist, the historian, the lawyer, and the parliamentarian to his untimely death. Mr. Speaker, the powers that be then were comfortable with Dr. Dankwa's political incarceration as he symbolized the real strength of the opposition in the one-man rule political milieu. That was why blackmailing, communist inferior tactics were deployed when Dr. Dankwa was at his lowest moment in the encircling gloom of cell number 9 to abandon the position so he could enjoy academic lecturing in the Oxford University in the United Kingdom. Dr. Dankwa saw the bait like the rock of Gibraltar. Dr. Dankwa did not budge, and like Moses in the Bible, Dr. Dankwa, in an extraordinary principle-centered leadership, chose to suffer afflictions for the people of Ghana than to enjoy the pleasures of Egypt, which is but for a season. Those of you who are Bible inclined may look at Hebrews 11:24 to 26. Right, Honorable Speaker, no doubt Ghana's matter of democracy paved the way for the refined system of democracy we are currently enjoying, whose unshakable pillars are a multi-party system, the power of the ballot, the rule of law, individual liberty and freedoms, and a truth-honoring press, etc. Dr. Dankwa represented the power of upholding principle over convenience. That he was a special breed of a politician is evidenced in his own homemade poem, which I quote verbatim to conclude my commemorative speech. Honorable Speaker, with your leave, I would like to quote a poem from the late Joseph Pamichiche Boache Dankwa. I was born and was sick of it. I was nursed and survived it. I went to school and finished it. I made a farm and raped it. I carried cocoa and sold it. I went to work and clerked it. I arrayed the classics and winnowed them. I tried government and shared it. I tried matric and failed it. I crossed knowledge and absorbed it. I dined for law and devoured it. I reached dead station and bypassed it. I much scribbled and styled it. I hate politics and noised it. I edited news and sold it. I dyed my hair and sold it. I dyed my hair and stopped it. I pushed for truth and published it. I gospeled youth and gave them faith. I colored my state and urged it. I wooed the golden lady and engaged her. I visioned great Akan and slaved for it. I fueled, researched, and natived it. I entertained family and I paid for it. I stood up to the English and preferred them. I denounced evil and anointed it. I encountered Pilate and I kept the golden rule and embroidered it. I saw life was a wicked thing and I loved it. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for your kind indulgence.
Thank you very much. Honorable Awarika.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this commemorative statement on the occasion of the 53rd anniversary of the death of Dr. Joseph Kwame Chirichiri Boache Dankwa by Honorable Samuel Atachia could not have come at a better time. Mr. Speaker, clearly these are matters that preceded the birth of many of us. But once upon a time, as law students, we had occasion to read about this great legal luminary.
In the process, the second Deputy Speaker will take the chair. Please continue.
We had the opportunity to read about this great legal luminary. And indeed, in my few years as a student of political science, not very long, Mr. Speaker, and I never had the benefit of being your student, but in my few years as a student of political science, Mr. Speaker, we are told about the role that this great son of our soil played in the struggle for the decolonization of Ghana and the creation of the new state of Ghana. It is indeed sad and a travesty of history that a man of that stature, a man of that standing, a man who played such a crucial role in the establishment of our nation would pass away in a maximum security prison approximately 9 feet by 6 feet under the well-known oppressive preventive detention act of those days. So, Speaker, this is sad, and there's no gainsaying that we should be guided by these critical junctures in our political history and collectively to work to ensure that never again in our political history should anybody with the kind of commitment that J.B. Dankwa had to the development of the new Ghanaian state be made to suffer such a fate. So, Speaker, today that freedom blossoms in our country, today that fundamental human rights is the abiding creed of our country, today that individual liberty is a promise that we hold high for every individual in our country. It's a product of the struggles of people like J.B. Dankwa. However, Mr. Speaker, in all this, let's not forget the turbulent times that intimidated and frightened those who took perhaps the false steps of enacting legislation such as the Preventive Detention Act. So, Speaker, we should never take democracy for granted. We should never take the liberties that we enjoy for granted. We should never take it for granted that at all times we will continue to enjoy law and order without the system suffering any deterioration. We must appreciate that we have an unending responsibility to keep the system functioning in such a way that the values of human rights, the values of fundamental liberties remain high on the agenda. And that is why certain tendencies which are reoccurring in our politics must be guarded against. These days, we hear of vigilantism. These days, we hear of all sorts of forces generated around elections to play the role of intimidating political adversaries and to stifle the process of campaigning and electioneering. So, Speaker, these are the breeding grounds of the tendencies that sometimes can drive numerous souls into seeking refuge in very bad legislation such as the Preventive Detention Act. So, Mr. Speaker, on such an auspicious day, when we remember the great son of this country, let's also use the occasion to advise ourselves to refrain from mobilizing, from arming, from encouraging, from tolerating, and from giving opportunity to these developments that can become a major setback to the development of our democracy and the advancement of freedom and liberty in our country. On that day, Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Dr. Afriye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And indeed, today is a very solemn day, especially those of us on which the late Joseph Chidankwa has bequeathed to us a very powerful legacy which makes the party MPP and its forebears proud. Indeed, Joseph Chidankwa has always been associated with many quotes, but of all the quotes, the most important one is perhaps this one which I'm happy to quote, that to liberate the energies of the people for the growth of property-owning democracy in this land with a right to life, freedom, and justice as the principles to which the government of the laws of the land should be dedicated in order specifically to enrich life, property of each and every citizen. End quote. Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very, very powerful quotation in the sense that in the past when it was so incorrect, if I may put, or let's say, the tendency was that for people to believe in a command and control economy. Joseph Chidankwa put the individual development, his freedom, at the center of his philosophy, and that is what development is all about. When you take the history of this country, you will realize that after making very, very tenuous and circuitous journeys in history, I am happy to announce that Joseph Chidankwa's ideas have triumphed. And the constitution that we are using, 1992 constitution, is perhaps those ideas that have flown into that constitution couldn't have come from any other idea, but from those of Joseph Chidankwa, even though it was largely commandeered by a political philosophy which was outside of his. But before I take my seat, Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that Ghana should pay a good homage to this man because he has done so much for this country. Our whole economy is predicated on the fact that we are moving into the arena where a private sector-led economy is what, at least from where I come from, that is what we are angling for. And I believe that if we take the philosophy of Joseph Chidankwa seriously, this country will be all the better for it. Because at the end of the day, it is individual freedom, individual progress, families, which make the nation. And I think on this day, it is very apt that the Honorable Minister and the MP for Obuakwa South has drawn our attention, the attention of this House, for him to be commemorated. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Rashid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
I also rise to, first of all, thank the maker of the statement for this commemorative event, and to say that it is a very disturbing circumstance to think about what happened in our history, to think about the irony of the tragic end of this great man who rose and committed his life to the defense of our people and to fight for independence. And in the end, he fell and died in the most unacceptable manner. Mr. Speaker, this is a lesson to us, which should be a guiding principle, which should define a guiding principle for all of us throughout our history and throughout our political lives. That in the course of struggle to achieve an aim, the object of struggle must be properly defined. That we don't turn the spears of war against ourselves when the object of attention or the common enemy is outside of us. Mr. Speaker, we at one time in the struggle for our independence, the founding fathers found it necessary to unite, but they also found it necessary in the end to personalize the politics they engage in. And that was a point of departure from the decency of politics to the crude political life we are today reading about and regretting about. But I do want to agree with Honorable Ayorga when he talked about the way we conduct our politics. It is important that we identify that politics is not about people being hurt, but about people being helped out of situations. Politics is about opinions, and it's about investing our energy and our resources to make the people of our country better. In any struggle where the politician becomes the object of attack, then there must be something wrong with it. And I do agree that our democracy must move away from the point where we are compelled by circumstances to make laws targeting individuals and targeting the same democracy that has given us the edge in society over others. Mr. Speaker, Dr. J.D. Dankwa, whose 53rd death anniversary we are celebrating today, was a giant, an intellectual, a politician, a lawyer, a father. Let's not ever celebrate another such person in the manner we are celebrating him today. Let's recognize what they do for a living. Let's recognize how much they contribute to society, and let's recognize how that can be harnessed for a generation that is yet to be born. We all are told about the circumstances that led to the PDA. We cannot completely absolve those who define it and who made it what it was. But we can sympathize with them for the situation they found themselves. But that can only be done as a guide into a future that we are all here to define. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this commemorative event, I believe, should not be the end, but should always be a guiding line to all of us. That as we conduct our lives, we guard against anything that can abuse the rights of human beings, the freedoms that we define in our Constitution, and to ensure that we are guarded by the past. If we cannot learn from history, history will always repeat itself. And that is only in the animal kingdom. And thank God we are humans and committed to free play, free choice, and understanding of each other. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank the maker of the statement, and I pray that we use this event to understand the future yet to come. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Well, the Honorable from behind.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is that Dr.
Tivia West.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the maker of the statement eulogizing the late J.B. Dankwa. I rise to say a few words to also support his statement. Essentially, this is a sad occasion. However, the memory that J.B. Dankwa leaves us is not only because of the circumstances of his passing, but his contribution to our thoughts as a people of this country. Like Karl Marx, claimed by sociologists, political scientists, and many other sections of humanities, J.B. Dankwa contributed immensely towards the intellectual thinking in this country. And essentially, although he may be claimed by, again, sociologists, political scientists, and also by political tradition, maybe I need to add a word about the significance of his contribution to even the theology of the people of Africa. His work on the Akan doctrine of God, which emphasizes the ethics and principles held by the Akan people of Ghana as a representative of the thinking and the high moral fiber that is expected of people of this continent, was a significant contribution to the point that all Africans who study the theology of Africa would not remiss in looking at the philosophical underpinnings he proposed concerning monotheism, concerning even the beliefs of Africans towards the fact that there were values and ethics before the introduction of Judeo-Christian principles in our part of the world. So when the freedom fighters of our country emphasized the African personality, they anchored it within the traditional beliefs of Africans, making the point that before the European came to Africa, we were a distinct community with beliefs and practices anchored in values that were critical to even move us forward, to enable us to live together as people within the same continent. And so his contribution may not be stopped only at the political or the partisan level, but that he contributed significantly towards our understanding of us as a people of this country. These things have implications for us who live today and even work within the political atmosphere. It shows that we can be well-rounded people from any field, basing his legal, political, sociological ideas, and even his theological understanding of society. Also, it challenges us today to reduce our thinking and our contributions to society to writing. Dankwa is effectively remembered as a result of the written work that he left us. And also the fact that he had pride in his heritage as an Akan, and by extension as an African. His writings continue to dominate. A good bit of analysis provided by Edwin Smith, by Professor Kwame Dixon, and many other African theologians. And so, while his passing is a sad commentary of some of the political events in this country, we celebrate him for his contribution to our thinking as a people. With these few words, may we remember Dankwa for what he stood for, and that never again would we enact laws that would be inimical to our progress and development as a country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to associate myself with the eulogy being presented by the MP for Abuakwa South on this very auspicious day in the political history of Ghana. Dr. J.B. Dankwa's life represents, on one hand, what we can do as a people when we are united. In unity, we can move mountains as a people. On the other side, his life also represented the state into which we can put ourselves and our national history when we don't stay united, when we are disunited for either personal, ideological, ethnic, for whatever reasons. And the lessons for this generation, and especially for the political class, is that the interests of Ghana at any material time must be supreme. When politics is reduced to the politics of personalities rather than principles, the nation state suffers. Today, on both sides of the political divide, no one can say that J.B. Dankwa's death is a glorious chapter in the history of Ghanaian politics. It is not. And therefore, we must examine whether we are working towards building cohesion as a people, whether we are working towards uniting the people behind our common objective of fighting poverty, our common objective of developing this country, our common objective of staying as one people, or we are working towards dismembering this nation state that we have inherited. The best tribute to the sacrifices of J.B. Dankwa and others like him on all sides of the political divide is for us to be seen to be united, starting from this chamber as the representatives of the people, and carrying this sense of unity across all the regions of Ghana, united in wanting to develop Ghana, united in wanting to see the black stars shine. Mr. Speaker, this to me will be the best tribute to the great work of the intellectual, the luminary, the nationalist, J.B. Dankwa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, honorable members, I think, yes, Majority Leader. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to say a few words about the commemoration of the transition of the nationalist, the patriot, the intellectual, the native man, J.B. Dankwa, whose fire, whose light was extinguished in very inglorious circumstances. Mr. Speaker, today we remember what J.B. Dankwa did as one of the pioneers of the struggle that culminated in the liberation of Ghana. Today, as a people, we can speak with one voice that the Preventive Detention Act was oppressive, as the Honorable Ayariga has said, that it was set out to subjugate the citizens of this country who had, as a collective, fought for the attainment of independence. Mr. Speaker, today this nation can take glory in the provisions of our Constitution relating in particular to the Charter on the freedoms of individuals and of citizens of this country. Mr. Speaker, today our Constitution, the fourth Republican Constitution, can now speak loudly about the protection of the right to life. The protection of the right to life is captured in Article 13(1) and seen directly from what happened to J.B. Dankwa. Mr. Speaker, the protection of personal liberty as captured by Article 14 of our Constitution. Every person shall be entitled to his personal liberty, and no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty, except in the following cases and in accordance with procedure permitted by law. Mr. Speaker, these experiences in our life as a nation, the rights, the fundamental human rights and freedoms, many of them directly ensue from happiness to astute citizens such as J.B. Dankwa. Mr. Speaker, in particular, Article 14(2), which says, a person who is arrested, restricted, or detained shall be informed immediately in a language that he understands of the reasons for his arrest, restriction or detention, and of his right to a lawyer of his choice. Those people who were detained under the PDA, including J.B. Dankwa, were not even told what offense they had committed. Mr. Speaker, respect for human dignity. Today, our Constitution provides in Article 15(1), the dignity of all persons shall be inviolable. Mr. Speaker, this ensues from the treatment, the shambolic treatment, the Stone Age treatment that was accorded to J.B. Dankwa. Mr. Speaker, and here was a man who had joined ranks to bring together to Ghana the person who stoke the embers of our liberation struggle. How ironic, how tragic that that same person would turn around to mete out such cruelty to the person who sponsored his homecoming. Mr. Speaker, today, this nation can adopt a constitution that provides in Article 18(1), every person has the right to own property either alone or in association with others. Mr. Speaker, when J.B. Dankwa extolled property-owning democracy, he became a subject of ridicule. Today, as a nation, we find it worthy to incorporate that into our national constitution. And by a referendum, we have all approved of this credo, that every person has the right to own property either alone or in association with others. The Speaker, the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and belief, which shall include academic freedom, is enshrined in our Constitution. Article 21(1)(b). Gone are the days when university lecturers were picked up from lecture rooms and humiliated. Today, the nation has learnt. Today, the nation has learnt. And people can now sing in this chamber that God should help us to resist the oppressor's rule. Today the nation has learned. Mr. Speaker, Article 32(1) provides, and with indulgence, I want to go through that. Where a person is restricted or detained by virtue of a law made pursuant to a declaration of a state of emergency, the following provisions shall apply. He shall, as soon as practicable, and in any case not later than 24 hours after the commencement of the restriction or detention, be furnished with statement in writing specifying in details the ground upon which he is restricted or detained, and the statement shall be read or interpreted to the person restricted or detained. These things did not happen to J.B. Dankwa. But today, learning lessons that have incorporated the experience which led to the death of this famous man, this famous citizen of Ghana. We have incorporated this into our national constitution. Ghana is still learning. Indeed, Ghana has learned useful lessons. Mr. Speaker, one other person, Odusebilamte, was arrested and detained under the PDA for living under suspicious circumstances. Can anybody imagine this in modern Ghana? He was living at Kanda. He left Kanda to live at Baoleshi. And he was arrested for living under suspicious circumstances. This nation has lived under oppression before. We have lived under subjugation before. We have lived under pulverization before. The nation has learned. Protection of the rights by the court. The court will make a ruling and is overturned the next day by the executive. Today, our constitution provides, Mr. Speaker, that Parliament cannot make any law that will affect the judgment of the court. It ensues from what happened to J.B. Dankwa. And yet, in those days, nobody could raise a voice that what had happened at the time was unconscionable. Today, Parliament, by Article 107A and B, cannot make retrospective laws. It ensues from our days of the past. Mr. Speaker, one want to believe, as the Honorable Ayariga said, that those events should mark a watershed in our national life, that never again shall we return to such Stone Age practices. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we have had to go back in all the coup regimes that have followed after Nkrumah's era. We have been made to live in circumstances that could be described simply as inhumane. And yet, when it mattered, people lost their voices. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy with the conclusion of Dr. Kwabena Donko when he says to us that we should bind ourselves with our collective resolve to develop this country. Happily, Mr. Speaker, today, the directive principles of state policy put all of us in one plane. Mr. Speaker, today there are no extreme political parties in this country. The MPP, in fact, we are all centrist parties, as proposed by the directive principles of state policy. The MPP, the government, the ruling party of today, is just a little bit to the right of the center. Just like the NDC is just a little bit to the left of the center. We are all centrist parties. So why can't we come together to develop? And we resort to haranguing, attacking personalities, and not be truthful to ourselves. Propaganda will not take this nation anywhere. Truthfulness will. Truthfulness will ferry this nation to its cherished destination. After all, as a champion used to say, we are one people in one nation with a common destiny. Mr. Speaker, may we continue to learn useful lessons from what happened to J.B. Dankwa and move our nation forward, ever prepared to indeed resist the oppressor's rule. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I cannot resist the temptation of saying a few words. I know that you all know that J.B. Dankwa was born on the 21st of December, 1895. And that you all know that he left the shores of Ghana in 1917 and stayed in UK for 10 years. Returned 1927 after having earned PhD in law, the first African to have achieved that feat. I want to urge members to try to do more research and to make such statements on the floor of the House. They enrich not only members of Parliament, but the whole country as a whole. There are a lot of lessons we can learn from the past to guide us to move away from the wrongs and to do right things. Once again, I urge that members themselves to do the research and not to listen to others, because many are from different perspectives. And I want to call on the House to try to do some courses for members on the political history of Ghana, and that members will try and learn more on leadership and governance. It will help all of us. As much as we all wish to be united and to work towards the development of Ghana, these things still remain fine words. There is no action in that direction. And even on the floor, it is very evident that it's only words, 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 but no action. A lot of our fathers and grandfathers have done a lot and sacrificed their lives in nation building. But it seems we've only learned the wrong lessons. And as of today, we are still at each other's throat. And we recall when the Preventive Detention Act was taken away, it was replaced with a protective custody decree. We are still caught up in that history. And for me, I want us to move away from it. We should do everything not to let the sacrifice of such illustrious sons be in vain. The poem that was read as the conclusion tells it all. He succeeded a lot in many areas, and in fact, still remains the intellectual direction of this country. He slept with his pen. He did a lot of research, and he fought for the country. He might not have been so successful in politics, but at least he left a legacy, which is still guiding all of us. And so, sometimes I get so sad about the unnecessary debates of comparing
the two giants of our country, Dr. J.B. Dankwa and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I get so disturbed about it. Because when even Dr. J.B. Dankwa came back to Ghana in 1927, Nkrumah hadn't left the shores of this country. He left the shores in 1935. And when he got to London in 1946, J.B. Dankwa was already in Ghana playing politics and practicing his law. There are so many things that we have to learn from both of them. But we should not let their differences that erupted in UGCC dictate the course of our politics and the future of our country. It's with this, I commend highly the maker of the statement, and I pray that we get more of such research statements to energize our iconic leaders. I thank honorable members for the spirit of the contributions. Honorable Majority Leader, any direction, do we go to public business? Today being a Friday.
Speaker, the motions listed as item number 6 and 7 cannot be taken yet because leadership is yet to meet with the leadership of the Public Accounts Committee to take a decision on the way forward with respect to these two motions. So on that account, Mr. Speaker, having dealt with the other programmed items, I guess we can take an adjournment, especially given the fact that some of our colleagues may also have to travel to the Western region, Ashanti, and also the Northern region to undertake some parliamentary assignments. Speaker, before I move the motion for adjournment, let me announce that the copies of the message on the state of the nation delivered yesterday by the President are in the mails room and they are in the pigeonholes of members. We request them to pick them up and study them over the weekend in order for us to be able to start the debate in earnest on Tuesday. I hope that leadership can have some further consultations to better structure the debate so we know how to deal with it. Oftentimes, we have not managed very well, and the contributors are crisscrossing, and the debate is not well structured. So, Speaker, that is by way of announcement. And let me now move that this House takes an adjournment until Tuesday next week at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. Speaker, I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion for adjournment.
Honorable members, the motion for the adjournment of the House has been moved and seconded. It's for the consideration of the House. Since I cannot see any member on his feet, I will proceed to put the question. The question is that those in favor of adjournment of the House say aye. Aye. Those against adjournment say no. The ayes have it. The House is accordingly adjourned to Tuesday, the 13th day of February 2018 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. The House stands adjourned.